Synchronized every week.
Call to order, Nagano City Council regular meeting, March 13th, 2025. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call, please.
Mayor Gilmanin,
Present.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Howard,
Hello.
Councilmember Flowey,
Here.
Councilmember Kangas.
Here.
Councilmember Deeds. Here. Councilmember Garabati.
Here.
All right, can we get a motion for approval of the agenda, please?
Can I move to add discussion of water fluoridation to the agenda?
How do we process that one?
Mr. Mayor, it would be up to the council to decide to do that if the motion was seconded and the council agreed to do that. We have a long-standing tradition not to add items that are so controversial on a meeting, the evening of a council meeting. To give the ability for people who want to speak on the issue to come forward and speak on the issue.
All right.
What was the motion?
To add the discussion of water fluoridation to the agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
You wanna have a vote on that? You don't need a discussion.
Okay. Let's do a roll call vote on that again. I'm just gonna write this down first.
Councilmember Becker,
No.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Flowey,
No.
Councilmember Kangas,
No.
Councilmember Deeds,
No.
Councilmember Garabati,
Yes.
Mayor Gilmanin.
No.
Motion fails 2-5.
You're not back to the approval of the
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, seconds. All in favor? Aye. All right, moving on to number 5, public comment.
You don't think you should ask for a vote?
No, we ask her. You don't have to ask for a vote.
Okay.
Moving on, number 5, public comment. 3-minute limit. Step up to the podium, please give your name and your address.
Hello, I'm Carrie Plummer, a longtime Nagani resident, and I've spoken and sent
Your address,
emails.
Gary, I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
Your address, please.
566 West Street. I've spoken and sent emails to each of the city council members regarding the latest data on water fluoridation. Concerned citizens express that adding fluoride to the water supply in the form of medicine is a violation of human rights. People who want fluoride can get it cheaply through toothpaste or mouthwash. No one should be forced to ingest it through drinking water. This does go against informed consent. Many families can't afford to pay for fluoride filters that can cost hundreds of dollars annually. The fluoride chemical that we use is hydrofluorosilicic acid, and it is a discharge from the aluminum and fertilizer industries. It's listed as a contaminant in the Nagani and Ishpeming water tables. It's so corrosive that it must be disposed of at hazardous waste facilities if it wasn't sold to cities for fluoridation. Of 196 countries, only 24 use any fluoridation. Over 97% of Europeans drink fluoridation-free water, many citing the ethical problem of putting a drug in drinking water. Many UP cities and townships don't fluoridate, including Nagani Township, Iron Mountain, Houghton, Republic, Ironwood, and Chatham. WHO data show no difference at all in cavity rates between fluoridated and unfluoridated nations. The recent Cochrane collaboration review confirms this as well. There is a scientific consensus that fluoride's effectiveness is mainly topical, not ingested. Currently, the annual budget for both our cities to purchase this hazardous waste product is $5,250. In 10 years, that amounts to well over $50,000 spent, not including inflation and potential price increases. This money could be better used elsewhere. The data of harm from water fluoridation keeps growing, including JAMA's recent publication in January that showed a significant risk of lower IQs in babies and children who drink fluoridated water. Fluoride is considered a
1 minute
neurotoxin,
left.
bad for the developing brain. Some other health concerns include thyroid, liver, and kidney disease, arthritis, severe headaches, and the most common dental fluorosis. Dental fluorosis is quite common in communities that fluoridate their water. In light of this, water fluoridation poses an unreasonable risk to our community's health and has not demonstrated scientifically any clear benefit to the public. What I'm asking, and I think maybe this is what Amanda might have originally wanted to ask for, is could this be put on the April agenda for review and reevaluation? Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Brittany Saltman, 44 Niji. I have been a resident of Nagani Township for 3 years now. However, my children go to school at Nagani. I am sure that Val and others here today have been educating you guys on the effects of fluoride. We have been pleading with the county in Marquette. I know 2 years ago I was with Val speaking to Marquette County about the fluoridation. But the time of ignorance is kind of over at this point. There's a lot of data out there. It's not a conspiracy theory. Like, it has huge negative impacts on our children. I'm very fortunate that I have a well and I don't have to deal with it at home. However, my children do go to school. I have to send them with extra water. I've educated them on the effects of fluoride. And it's just another burden on parents and the community that we shouldn't have to protect our children from. So I'm asking you to please add it to the agenda for April for discussion. Thank you.
Could you pass these down so that each council member gets one, please? I also want to, Valerie Olson, sorry, 116 Hillcrest Trail. I also want to encourage you to please review the materials that I'm passing down so that you're more aware of the recent federal court ruling on the fluoridation issue. We had a ruling from Federal Judge Chen on September 24th that the National Toxicology Program report showed unreasonable risk to our children and the unborn, particularly when a pregnant woman is drinking fluoride, because the fluoride goes right into the brain of the fetus. It concentrates in the brain and in the bones. It does the same with children when they have an open blood-brain barrier. The important thing to know is this ruling, it took 7 years for them to finish the trial. The American Dental Association attempted to alter the information. What's difficult to understand is why have we not been told the truth about this all these years when we've been promoting it, thinking it's good for dental health. Now what we know is the agencies we were trusting, like the American Dental Association, if you go to the website on the one sheet that I gave you, you will see from the trial, when Judge Chen gave his ruling, that by FOIA request, the American Dental Association had to have all of their communication exposed in the trial to the judge, in which they asked for the report the judge was waiting on to make the ruling, to alter it. It was all exposed by email. Please take out the part about lowered IQ. Could you do that in children? And could you rework the numbers? And then there were responses from people at National Toxicology Program. This is the highest agency in the country to review a toxic element, okay? And what we need to understand, in my almost 30 years of being in the healthcare field, my teachers have been the medical doctors who have written about this for 25 years. And Dr. David Brownstein, who has authored 16 books, an amazing medical doctor from the Detroit area, stated that
1 minute left, Val.
fluoride is a neurotoxin. It is an endocrine disruptor. So this is, to make it simple, so I don't use big words, fluoride blocks the absorption of the very nutrient iodine that we need to have normal thyroid function. So when people drink city water and it keeps accumulating in the thyroid gland, when the thyroid needs to concentrate iodine to work normally, we are in essence interfering with normal body function. So that compromises the immune system, that increases risk for cancers. They even know bone cancer in children when they're at that age where they're developing bones, if they were drinking fluoridated water, have a higher risk for bone cancer. Please, I urge you to go to the website that I gave you the information on. Listen to the medical doctors and dentists who say, I once thought this was wonderful, I thought it was a good thing to do, and then I looked at the science. Please look at the science. This is about our children. We shouldn't be putting something in the water that accumulates in their brains and compromises their normal body function. So I'm asking you please to put this on the agenda for April so it can be discussed. Thank you very much.
Hi, Jeff Plummer, 566 Bluff Street. Longtime resident. I also mentioned I'm on the planning commission, but I'm not here in that capacity. I'm simply here as a concerned citizen with an opinion like the others on water fluoridation. We've looked at this for a long time, and there's so much new science that is really showing that there is no real benefits for the teeth of water fluoridation, especially ingesting it. But there are so many health ramifications. Growing body of work showing the dangers of this. It's a known neurotoxin. It's a synthetic chemical too. It comes from fertilizer plants. It's actually, like Curie said, it's a toxic waste product. And there's more and more science being done on it. There's so many communities that are looking at banning it, that are banning it. Many that have already removed it. For example, Houghton, and we have cities in the UP, I think Iron Mountain. There's many cities in the UP that don't have water fluoridation. Devine Township doesn't have water fluoridation, of course. And again, most of Europe doesn't have water fluoridation. And there's another interesting study I've read recently is, especially when we look at lead, all old cities like ours that have lead in water lines, is fluoride. There's new research that shows that fluoridated water increases the uptake of lead in the body. So there's a synergistic effect of one neurotoxin, fluoride, increasing the uptake of another neurotoxin, lead. So this synergistic effect is extremely troubling. So I really believe the city should consider reviewing water fluoridation to see if it makes sense in light of today's scientific evidence. And I would appreciate that being considered and brought into, put on the agenda in April. Thank you very much.
My name is Dr. Jim Hayward. I'm a dentist and have been a dentist in Marquette County for 45 years now.
Address, Jim?
Our address is 103A East Buffalo Road, Negaunee Township.
Continue, please.
And I was in private practice in West Ishpeming for 17 years, and then decided that I was being called to start a clinic with the health department in Marquette to treat low-income and Medicaid-eligible children. And in that particular role, I saw a tremendous amount of decay in our low-income children. 80% of the disease is in 20% of the population, and that's, of course, the low-income population. The advantages of fluoride at the recommended proper levels are tremendous in terms of decay reduction, and I saw it every day in my practice throughout the years. I could tell whether patients were from the Copper Country area or from an area that was fluoridated by the amount of decay that they were experiencing, and even a difference between Marquette and the Cherry Creek school kids who were in a non-fluoridated situation. What we're talking about here is fluoride levels of water fluoridation. There are safe levels of water fluoridation and there are not safe levels of water fluoridation. At the current recommended levels of 0.7 parts per million fluoride in our water, there are no indications of any health concerns related to that concentration of fluoride. There's no reduced IQ from the research that's come out on that. Fluoride is a mineral that's probably been more researched than any other mineral in the existence of our creation. And the research, the credible research that has taken place shows that water fluoridation is safe and effective, reducing decay rates as much as 25%. This is something that the dental profession has encouraged for years. the dental profession first started fluoridating water, actually at the recommendation of the federal government in, to Michigan, or Michigan City, Grand Rapids, and the control city was, Muskegon. And that test went on for, 2 years, and the decay rate level
1 minute left, Jim.
in Grand Rapids was reduced so significantly that Muskegon requested that they go on water fluoridation as well. When we're looking at costs of fluoridation, it is a little bit more in smaller communities like ours. It might cost as much as $5 a year per capita to do that. However, the benefits of not having to have your children or yourselves treated for decay is much more significant. A dental filling probably runs somewhere in the neighborhood of $100. Crowns, more like 1,000. So there's a significant savings in fluoridating our water. And as I say, at the level that we're currently fluoridating our water, it's been proven to be totally safe, free of any negative side effects. Thank you.
You.
Dave Campana, I live at 1711 Grandview Drive in Marquette. First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak here. I'm a proponent of fluoride in the water. It's the best thing the city could do for their residents. It's safe and it's effective. I'd like to clear up a few things. Fluoride has been studied, there's been at least almost 1,000 studies on fluoride, done by very reputable scientific organizations, such as the American Dental Association, the American Medical Association, CDC, WHO, American Cancer Society. They all have positive results for fluoride. Fluoride is used in all municipal water supplies at a 0.7 parts per million. The actual high point is 4 point. They use 1/6 of that, 0.7. There has never been any problem with the 0.7. You cannot find any problems, any health problems with 0.7 parts per million. You just can't. Fluoride coming out of the ground, yeah, it might be an ore. It is in the ground. Fluoride is found in every body of water everywhere. There are levels of fluoride in every body of water. It's also in the ground. It's taken out, maybe along with fertilizer. They use that all the time. But a chemical reaction, once you take this toxic product, put it in the water, it changes its properties 180 degrees. It becomes very toxic or very neutral. So the minute you dump it in the water, it's safe, zero safe. You can swim in it. So it is an additive. It's not a medicine. Not a medicine. It's been said that Houghton and Iron Mountain declined to use fluoride. I called the city water managers of Houghton and Iron Mountain. Both of them said they've never used fluoride. Their city has never had fluoride. So it's not they discontinued it, they just never had it. Why don't they put it in like most other cities? It's expensive, they have to train somebody to do it, they have to buy a product. They don't want to incur that expense, that problem. So it's not that they turned it down, it's just they don't want to get started. Same thing in Europe, they just don't have the infrastructure for it. And everybody over there drinks bottled water. But they don't tell you that in Europe, they put fluoride in their milk and in their salt. So they don't put it in water, they put it in milk and salt. Cancer, it doesn't cause cancer. American Cancer Society has said that. They've tested it, they've done studies, it does not cause any cancer. This thing about the IQ, the tests that were done, the studies that were done on the IQ, none of them were done in the US. They were done in Canada, Mexico, India, China, Pakistan.
About 15 seconds.
Thank you. And they just can't believe that it was properly done. You have to have a well checked study, it has to be properly done to be qualified as being accurate, and they haven't been. That's the problem with that.
That's all we got.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
my address is 316 Pine Street, so I do not consent to having fluoride in the water supply because they said it's a neurotoxin and it messes with your pineal gland, which is your connection to God's source, and our light, stuff. So, we need to get it out of the water, because it's horrible for people with autism and anybody. So please put it on the agenda in April, so we can get rid of the fluoride. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Rebecca Mino. I'm a registered dental hygienist and a dental health educator with the Market County Health Department.
Your address, Rebecca, I'm sorry?
Yep, 725 Tar Street in Medina. I've worked in the dental industry and public health for over 37 years. My uncle was also a dentist, and he was very active with fluoride being in the water. Looking back at some of the history of the fluoride in the water in Marquette County, in 1964, it was added to the water in Ishpeming. It was already in the water in Negaunee and Marquette. I was born in 1964, and I have drank the water my entire life. I don't have any cavities. I'm very fortunate of that, and I do think that was in part the bulk of fluoride in the water. Just a couple other things that I'd like to mention. When I do my screenings with the health department, with children's teeth, I also, like Dr. Haber, can tell which children are in areas with fluoride in the water and which children aren't with fluoride in the water. Another interesting study that I just read about too, in Calgary, Canada, Calgary, Alberta, they have voted to put the fluoride back in the water. They removed it back, and I want to say it was 2011. And since that time, the Calgary Children's Hospital in Alberta had a 700% increase in children going to the hospital to be on IV antibiotics to help counteract the infection from the dental decay that they were having. And I can forward that information to this council if they would like to read that. So I am for keeping the fluoride in the water. It's been in our water system, like I said, since the 1960s. And fluoride is actually the 13th most common element in our Earth's crust. It is in the soil, it is in the rocks, it is in the oceans, it's in all of our water supplies, it's in fish and in shellfish that we eat. It's just that the amounts are different across the world. The other studies that I've read in China where they've done the studies, the parts per million that we have in Negaunee, for instance, is 0.7 parts per million. The parts per million in the studies that I read over in China were 11 parts per million. So those parts per million with fluoride can vary. When it is controlled, because we have smart scientists, doctors, dentists, and people that can do that, it can be very beneficial for our children and our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Matt Lopes, 307 West Clark Street. I'm going in a different direction here. Sorry. I want to address the last council meeting, kind of the tension that I perceived. I know there was definitely less people here, so to take my word for it. And address, I guess, maybe the tone towards the DDA from Councilmember Howard, how I felt like the disrespect towards the DDA was uncalled for, and I don't blame the rest of the council for then maybe taking that personally, and it's certainly not helping the dialogue here to remain civil and to have progress in a way that shows respect. With that though, I want to point out something, having been going to meetings for the past year or so. Councilmember Howard is correct that sometimes some of his concerns and questions, although he addresses them sometimes in a kind of blunt and maybe not articulate manner, they're valid sometimes. I'll take one example, the condition of the fire department building. He brought to the attention of the council this summer. not long after that, there was a budget meeting where a member of the audience raised concerns about the fire department condition as well. But Mr. Howard's original concern at a prior meeting was met with skepticism. It wasn't really answered in a way that was satisfactory to him. And it's clear that there are times when eventually I'm sure that he reaches the limit of patience. And so I can see how then that comes out in these dialogues sometimes. But I know there was eventually another meeting, I want to say in September, October, where Councilmember Becker brought up the same concern and an answer that was a little bit more validating and acknowledging that there was a problem with the building all of a sudden presented itself. So I don't blame Councilmember Howard for losing his patience. That doesn't not mean that I condone his tone or the way that he brings issues up, but I just want to highlight that as an example of something I see as a member of the public, that I think we can do better as a council to actually hear people out when they have concerns. Take, for example, what's happening right now. We have two people that probably are in tune to what is happening in this room and realizing that this is about 10 times the amount of people that usually show up in a meeting, and they think it's worth a conversation out of respect to the people that showed up today. So I just want to address that. Thank you for your time.
This is Wilma, 307 West Clark Street. I just want to say that right now I'm going to say I support Councilmember Ganavati and her request to have the water explored. I think it's always good to make sure we have safe drinking water. I don't really know anything about fluoride and all of that, so I'm not going to go into any details, but I think if a council member brings something up and we get a second motion, we should have been discussing it. And I think actually it's kind of ironic because it's being discussed, so just something to think about.
I'm Bob Mann, 774 Greenfield Road. I'm representing the Michigan Geological Survey. Just want to let you know I'm here to answer any questions about item 8.2. Thanks.
Any further public comment? All right, closing public comment. Moving on. Number 6, public hearing, ethics standards of conduct ordinance, second reading. No, that's not. All right, let's open the public hearing about the ordinance, ethics standards of conduct ordinance, Oregon City Council.
So what I'd like to say about this is, I feel like when I came to, the first meeting that the new council members were at, it wasn't that meeting, but it was the next meeting after, and it wasn't you, that was the normal city attorney that was going through kind of the, I don't know, it was like an orientation of like what to expect when you're a council member. And I felt like a lot of the things I heard that day was very repetitious to what I heard in the Code of Ethics. It felt very much just redundant. It almost felt a little bit more like putting more restrictions on the council members. And what I have not heard since I have been coming to council meetings, and now that we have 2 members, I haven't heard any training on how to hold the city manager accountable. And I'm just wondering where that is in there, if there is such a thing, because I don't know why we're putting so much more pressure on them when you're all representing us. And you are, if I'm remembering, or if I know this correctly, you're technically the city manager's boss. So I would wonder, like for me, if I was coming in as a council member, I would want to be coached and educated on how to actually confront somebody who would maybe seem like a peer to me. And so I just think that that's missing, and I don't know if we need a code of ethics, because I feel like right now, it's not the council that I'm concerned about, it's things I'm not hearing. When you said Councilmember Kangas, when you said that we've been asking for transparency, this isn't what I asked for. I've been asking for transparency. but not in a code of ethics form. I'm looking to see how the council's being trained to hold somebody accountable. So that's it for now, thank you.
Any further comments? Close the public meeting, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Close the public meeting. And,
We need a motion, if they want to approve the second, reading and ordinance.
if we get a motion,
If that's what they want to do.
I make a motion that we form a committee to look into this further.
You'll have to ask her, is there anybody who wants to ask what's in the ordinance specifically?
Can we just ask that, what would that mean to look into it, like, edit it? Or,
Well, I think we ought to
we need
dissect
a
it.
second for your motion
Oh,
first.
well,
Before we
she asked a
discuss it.
question, I thought.
You need a second first, before you get discussion.
You need a second before you can discuss it.
okay, I'll second.
Now we can.
Now you can discuss
We
it.
can discuss.
Well, everybody that's elected here is put here by the voters. The voters also have the right to recall us. To say that somebody, anybody can tell us how we have to act other than the voters, like, we have to question every word in this thing and find out what's gonna happen. What happened if this situation happens or that situation happens? What do we do? Instead of just writing it all down and, well, I can interpret it any way I want, because that's what happened when we talked about this last time. It was going sideways in 10 directions. We can't have that. That's it.
I'll just say, I did ask a lot of questions, in the last meeting about this, this ordinance. And, I feel like for me, a lot was clarified. And all of it, even though it is kind of repetition of what we already have in our, it might be a little more in depth. I find it to be stuff that we should be doing anyway, you know, whether it's written down or not. So I myself do agree with the code of ethics, ordinance. And, you know, I hope that all city employees are held to the same standard, as well as elected and appointed officials.
Any further comments?
Well, as in, yes, maybe and I hear what you said, Dr. Kristen. I've been through my fair share of trainings for this, okay? So maybe for me, it's maybe a little repetitious. It's like, yeah, I've seen this horse go over this bridge before. But, to me, it just holds us accountable, the elected officials. That's what it's for. And the question about, okay, like, the city manager or whatever, well, his duties are very clearly stated in charter of what he is to do and what things can be, if there's gonna be, punishments or whatever, against him or looked into things, it's very clearly stated in charter. We each all got a copy of charter, so hopefully we've read it. And as for the, all city employees and such, you really can't do that. Because for one, city employees, DPW, police department, city hall, they're under contract. You'd have to reopen all of their contracts and go all throughout that over again. And that's not what this is meant for. This is just meant for people who are in the elected position.
Any further comments?
Call for the vote of the motion.
Vote of,
Mr. Howard's motion.
okay, I'll call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Well, just,
I thought we weren't asking for
Yeah, just-
opposed.
Well, so,
just for clarity, what are we voting on?
Yeah.
we are voting on.
There's a motion on the floor right now to
Form a committee.
form a committee to look into the ordinance further.
Thank you.
Yep.
You're the ringer tonight, eh?
You clarify so you can take the vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
I will take a little countdown.
Okay.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Flowey,
No.
Councilmember Kangas,
No.
Councilmember Deeds,
No.
Councilmember Ganabate,
No.
Councilmember Becker,
No.
Mayor Illman. Motion failed.
For the actual
Yeah.
ordinance, okay.
Make a motion that we approve the ethics standard of conduct ordinance as presented.
All right. Councilmember Becker, you get a second for that
I'll
motion?
second.
Councilmember Kangas seconds that motion. All right. Discussion, Councilmember Becker?
Well, this may be somewhat repetitious with the other instructions that are given to the council when, the new body is seated. This actually gives teeth to those instructions and gives the city, a way to rein in behavior that's inappropriate. And I think it's, long overdue.
You did, you seconded.
Yeah,
You seconded.
I heard your voices over here.
We're loud.
I'm hearing voices. I guess I'll just repeat what I earlier said, that it's a good tool for us to have, it just kind of, just, lack of a better term, kind of keeps us on our P's and Q's.
Any further discussion, absolutely not.
I wanna say, I like this ordinance, I think that it's something that, as a citizen, I would like to see any, elected official held accountable to, including myself and everybody else here, we should all be held to, a higher standard of ethics because of the power that we're given. So, that's what I'm saying.
Any further discussion? No, the only thing I have to say about it, Amanda, last month you asked a ton of questions about it. Great, I think the clarification of your questions answered a lot of questions that we may have had internally, so, thank you for that. With that, we will entertain a vote, and that's going to be a roll call vote.
Councilmember Flowey,
Yes.
Councilmember Kangas,
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds,
Yes.
Councilmember Ganabate,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Howard,
Nay.
Mayor Illman.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
All right, moving on, number 7, unfinished business, seeing none. Number 8, new business, 8.1, 2024 budget adjustments. Background on that.
Annually, state law requires the city to adjust its budget so that the actual revenue and expenses do not exceed stated budgeted amounts. This occurs because of overspending, receipt of unforeseen revenues, unexpected equipment failure, or emergency repairs. Attached, you will find a list of adjustments necessary to comply with state budgetary requirements. Both revenues and expenditures for the city's 2024 budget have been adjusted to reflect actual financial conditions in compliance with state law. Recommendation, make the attached budget adjustments and any additional adjustments as deemed necessary to bring the 2024 budget into compliance with state law.
Want to speak on this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, the only thing I would add is there'll be, another slew of these coming once we have, the, audit done. there's a couple other areas we have to sew up, but that should be starting here in a couple weeks, I imagine. And it takes a little time to get to the end, but, those will come forth, when they're ready for the council to see that.
Very good, thank you. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we make that past budget adjustments into any additional adjustments as deemed necessary to bring the 2024 budget into compliance with state law.
Dave makes the motion. I'll second. Kevin seconds the motion. Discussion, Dave?
No, we gave 3 words, annual state law, Florida's annual state law requires.
Kevin, anything further? Any further discussion? It's something, we've been here for a while, we know we do this every year, so it's just something we'll see in the upcoming years and throughout the rest of our time here. And we're gonna do a roll call vote on this one.
Councilmember Kangas?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Ganavate?
Yes.
Councilmember Becker?
Yes.
Councilmember Howard?
Nay.
Councilmember Chloe?
Yes.
Mayor Elmanin?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Right. 8.2, geologist agreement. Read the background on this one, please.
The City of Negauni's Planning and Zoning Office was contacted by the Michigan Geological Survey, a department within Western Michigan University's Department of Geological and Environmental Sciences, to assess city-owned abandoned mine properties to conduct sampling and testing on mined waste rock piles within those areas. The access agreement and maps are included in your packet. City staff recommendation: approve the access agreement with the Michigan Geological Survey.
You want to speak on it, or you want to ask Bob?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, we have Bob here, if you could come to the podium. Sure. The mayor can let me speak if there's any questions from the council member. Just a reminder, questions should funnel to the mayor, to the guests.
All right, it's Bob Greenfield, correct?
Man, Mahin.
Oh, Greenfield Road, I'm sorry.
Greenfield Road.
I'll let it right in here, I'll wait. All right, Bob, the floor is yours, thank you.
Sorry?
The floor is yours.
Oh, the Michigan Geological Survey received a grant, a federal grant from the U.S. Geological Survey to basically identify historic mine dumps that have some potential to contain what the federal government has defined as critical minerals. Critical minerals are elements and minerals that are important to technologies, but whose supply chain is judged to be potentially at risk. Most of these critical minerals, for example, rare earth minerals used in magnets and high-tech applications, most of it comes from China. So these rare earth elements are on the list. Nickel, most of it comes from, well, a lot comes from Canada, but also from Russia and South Africa. So nickel's on the list. There's a whole list, there's 50 of them right now. So we did a historical survey, we've dug into old reports and identified about 80 old mines that some report mentioned one of these critical minerals. And there's a few on City of Negauni property that made it on our list. So Western Michigan University attorneys drafted up an access agreement, basically a liability waiver for the site owner, absolves the property owner of any liability for anything we might do to ourselves when we're picking up rocks. What we'll do is we'll, if we find that the pile is actually sampleable, and some of them are overgrown from aerial photos, so we're not sure. So we'll just take a look first, then we'll do a survey. We'll take some GPS coordinates on the perimeters and the heights and things like that, and get an idea of volume, and we'll take some representative samples, several 5-gallon bucketfuls that we hope is representative of the entire pile. Those get sent to the USGS. The USGS does the geochemical analysis, and when they release the data, if then we'll know if there is or if there isn't, any amount of critical minerals in your waste pile. So it's the approval of the access agreement, again, it's a legal liability waiver, just to protect the landowner.
We need a motion.
If you wanna have discussion on it, I think you probably should.
Yeah, make a motion so we can ask questions, entertain a motion on the floor.
I'll make the motion to discuss and ask questions. Is that?
That's,
Do you wanna make a motion to approve the agreement?
Yeah, no,
No.
So
No.
what we normally do, we make the motion that the city staff recommends. And then
okay.
we discuss.
You can make a motion however you want. I mean, if you
Okay,
wanna make a
yeah.
motion to discuss, you can do that.
Okay, I make a motion to discuss, you know, before we approve or disapprove of the recommendation.
Just a point of order. I mean, so we're going to have discussion, but we've got to have a motion that we're discussing. So you're gonna make a motion to approve this. Even if you don't want to, even if you want to vote no, you're gonna make a motion to approve this, and then we can discuss it. But we don't need to have a motion to have discussion, because we're gonna have discussion
Discussion.
anyways,
Okay,
just for, yeah.
okay, I
So,
understand.
yeah.
Sorry.
So Amanda, in this case, if you'd like to withdraw your motion, then you can make.
I'll withdraw my motion, my motion, not my
And would you like to amend your motion? Or I'll open up the floor for.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
You're doing great. Keep
All
going.
right.
Motion to approve the access agreement with the Michigan Geological Survey.
Support.
John supported, okay. All right, now let's discuss. Oh, I'm sorry, John, yes. Kevin?
I'm just interested in hearing what everybody has to say about it.
John?
In looking at the agreement, it seems like this is just kind of the necessary first step to protect the city from liability. And there doesn't really seem to be, risk to us otherwise to let them in and do some sampling.
Amanda?
Well, I mean, what's the next step here after they get the samples? Are they gonna mine in Old Town? Or, cause that's where the map is, it's in Old Town and over off of Tracy Mine Road. So that was my concern is, go in and pick up a few rocks, but if you're gonna be tearing stuff up, if you're going to start the process of getting things going to start mining in these areas again, that's where my concern lies. I would not wanna see that especially since Old Town is a protected area under the DNR. So.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we do have protections in especially Old Town, but what we're discussing is.
We do for recreation, whether that would prevent anybody ever from mining out those properties again, I would say that probably doesn't. But I don't believe, I know for a fact, they're not gonna have students out from Western Michigan University in mining equipment, mining tailing piles and taking the rock away from the city. They mentioned they're taking 5 gallon buckets to be tested for critical minerals that the United States government deems as necessary for national defense, and just determining whether those are there or not. Likelihood, in my opinion, probably not very high, but that doesn't mean we give up our rights to the property, that doesn't mean we send people in to start mining, specifically in Old Town. There are properties we have, and we own all the mineral rights to, Tracy Mine, for example, that could potentially be looked at if there was something viable there. So at this point, to answer the councilwoman's question, Is there risk at mining at this point? No. And the council would have to make that decision whether they want that to happen, if there was a viable mining opportunity, and what all that would even entail. And that's way out because there's permits and other things that, I mean, when anybody starts a mine, it takes years for that to happen. But I just wanna err on the side of, events that are happening currently with certain administrations, it could happen quicker, but you're still talking a long time. There's lots of permits with the state. I don't know whether the people in Agani would be interested in people mining in Old Town, but there may be other properties that they're interested in that the city actually owns currently. So hopefully that adds some clarity.
Can I add a little bit more clarity? The program is specifically targeted for processed mine wastes. So if eventually it's found that there's a recoverable critical mineral in your pile, that it would be your choice whether you want to have that pile removed and sell it, basically. But like you said, that's a very long process. This is just the very, very tip of the iceberg of what could happen if there's something worthwhile in your pile of rocks.
Can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So say there is a critical mineral, to be found and it's documented, is that something that the federal government can then turn around and use eminent domain to take the property?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's your pile, you own it, you can do with it what you want.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
And I reviewed this and suggested a few changes, and they were happy to make those changes. So I've got no issues with this agreement as it's written out.
Thank you. What is the initial environmental impact? I mean, I know you say five gallon buckets, and then, of course, we're not gonna notice a couple of buckets
Right.
taken. Sometimes these things lead to, more, right? And I'm just more or less playing devil's advocate here.
Mhm.
But we use these areas as recreation, and I understand, students will be out there in their orange vests and collecting some buckets. But what, for anybody who's concerned, what's the initial environmental impact that we may or may not notice, if this does take place?
I guess I really can't think of one. I mean, we'll have a couple of trucks, but we're not gonna go off-roading on your property. We'll, find an appropriate place to park.
Right.
Other than that, you might see some stakes in the ground, which we'll remove, that sort of thing. The survey stakes, but we remove all those.
Right.
Other than that, I can't really think of an impact.
Yeah, I guess I'm more asking about volume of, like, the volume that you'll be taking.
We're gonna take away?
Yeah, correct.
Well, it depends on the size of the pile. What we'll do is we'll divide the pile up into, sections that are appropriate, depending on the size and the shape of the pile. And we'll say, okay, well, we'll get one bucket of rocks from this section and call that representative. So big piles could have, any number of sections. We're looking at Republic and, Groveland, and, we may come away with 20, 30 buckets, but the ones in Nagani, far fewer, I would say.
Okay, very good.
And this kind of reminds me of, like sometimes you'll see on this, coming into Nagani, coming from Marquette, you see on the left hand, or right hand side, there's a little rock cut right after that, Super One billboard. Sometimes you see a white van there from Michigan Tech with some college students kind of looking at the rock, and so if they're actually picking rocks or flaming stuff out there, I don't really know, but it's kind of reminding me of that, just more of an exploratory type of thing, and it's just see what you got, what you can identify.
Mm-hmm. It's a little different because we're
Yeah.
sampling
Maybe a little deeper, but yeah.
the mine waste. And if you're wondering, it's manganese is what may occur in potentially significant amounts in the old iron ores around here.
May I ask a question? No?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, during our second public
Oh,
comment,
okay.
you're more than able to address the council. We won't answer that question, but you can address your question.
Okay.
Any further discussions?
So there, you know, just to, so I have a clear picture,
Mhm.
you're not gonna pull up any trees to get to these piles, you're not gonna move, you know, 2 tons in order to
Take a
get to a
bulldozer,
pot?
no,
Okay,
it'll all be done by hand,
by hand, okay, so no machinery?
no machinery.
That clarifies.
No further discussion? That, okay, no further discussion. With that being said, let's take a vote on the motion on the floor to approve the access agreement with the Michigan Geological Survey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
I've got it from Matt, it's it.
Man.
Matt, it's it.
Yes, Ned.
I will do that. Okay.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Ganavate?
Nay.
Councilmember Becker?
Yes.
Councilmember Howard?
Yes.
Councilmember Flowey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kangas?
Yes.
Mayor Ilmenin?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Alright, moving on, 8.3, 2025 street project bids. Background on this one, and please.
The city of Negaunee issued bids for milling and paving 300 feet of Arch Street, 250 feet of Birch Street, 1,020 feet of Buffalo Road, and a couple patches on Prince Street. 2 total bids were received and opened. The paving project is tentatively planned to take place early summer 2025. The bids that were received were Baco Construction in the amount of $197,485.70. Payne and Dolan, $224,654.20. Recommendation, it is recommended from the Public Works Department that the city accept the low bid from Baco Construction Company in the amount of $197,485.70. Also to allow an additional project contingency of $22,514.30 for unforeseen issues, quantity overruns, for a total project cost of $220,000, with the project being paid out of the street millage fund. Fiscal effects for 2025, there is $240,000 budgeted in the street millage fund for paving streets. Alternative, do not award the project.
Want to go further background, Jim?
I really don't have any additional background. We can see what streets that will be affected by this. Unless anybody has any specific questions after our motion's in.
Okay. All right, let's get a motion on the floor for,
Make a motion to recommend the Public Works Department that the city accept the low bidder Baco Construction Company in the amount of $194,485.70. Also to allow an additional project contingency of $22,514.30 for unforeseen issues, quality overruns, for a total project cost of $220,000, with the project being made out of the street millage fund. Why did I make a motion on that? Too much reading.
I'll second.
any seconds?
Who did he say the contractor was supposed to be? Did he say Baco?
Yes, Bob.
Dave, further discussion? Comment?
No, it's, streets that are need to being done, and the public wants the streets to be taken care of, so this is all part of the process.
Agreed. Same.
Further discussion? Nothing? Tracy?
They need to be done.
No. All right, well, let's, no further discussion, let's, vote on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, 8.4, water line bids. Another Thank you.
The city of Negaunee has been working on the material inventory of water service lines as required by Eagle. As of February 25, the city has approximately 1,140 copper lines, 700 unknown lines, and 12 galvanized lead lines. 9 of the galvanized services are included in this bid, and the other 3 galvanized services are near the limits of the new potential water project. The city of Negaunee issued bids for the replacement of 9 of the galvanized lead service lines. 4 bids were received. The service line replacement project is tentatively planned to take place throughout the summer of 2025. The bids that were received were from Steve's Plumbing and Heating, $83,550, Superior Land Prep, $113,353, Smith Construction, $125,650, Carey Sodergren, $154,800. It is recommended from the Public Works Department that the city accept the low bidder Steve's Plumbing and Heating in the amount of $83,550. Also to allow an additional project contingency of $12,450 for unforeseen issues, quantity overruns, for a total project cost of $96,000, with monies being paid out of the water fund and drawdown of the water fund in the amount of $46,000. Fiscal effects. For 2025, there's $50,000 budgeted in the water fund. This will require a $46,000 drawdown of fund balance from the water fund. Alternative? No recommended alternatives.
Anything to add?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, the only thing I'd add is the differential and the reason why we have to add so much more money. At the time, we didn't know about all the galvanized pipes, so this, number came about after the budget had already been prepared. So, the one thing I will note, we are obligated to replace these by law. So they are going to have to be replaced no matter what. We are responsible for it. Holding off on them, probably not a good idea. So we recommend moving forward with the project with the change in the budget.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the city accept the lower bid, Steve's Plumbing and Heating in the amount of $83,550. Also to allow an additional project contingency of $12,450 for unforeseen issues and quantity overruns, for a total project cost of $96,000, with money being paid out of the water fund and a drawdown of the water fund balance in the amount of $46,000.
Motion. Support. Kevin supported that one first. Any further discussion, Amanda?
I'll say that I'm really excited about this because my house is one of the ones with the lead galvanized pipes. So I'm real excited about this one.
Alright, Kevin,
Just, it needs to be done and the sooner the better.
very good. Further discussion?
How come we're already planning for cost overruns?
To answer that question, Mr. Mayor, typically there are cost overruns, and this is just for unforeseen circumstances that may occur. That doesn't mean we will spend the $12,450. It's just to kind of give us additional ability to carry out the project, which is laid out here, and then not having to come back and change that later with the council.
Thank you. No further discussion? We got to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. 8.5, patrol vehicle bids.
The 2025 budget allocated money, $38,000 for a police vehicle and the required accessories from the equipment millage. The police department secured a quote of $49,548, 3-year lease at $18,103.45 per year for a 2024 Chevy Silverado 4-wheel drive police package from Berger Chevrolet, who was awarded the State of Michigan contract through the My Deal program. The quote for the required accessories, radio, lights, etc., received from Elcom is $20,101.47. This purchase does not need to go out on bids as it was already bid by the State of Michigan through the My Deal program. The estimated total purchase price is for 2025 is $38,204.92. Recommendation to authorize the purchase of the 2024 Chevy Silverado in the amount of $49,548 on a 3-year lease and $20,101.47 for the required accessories. Alternative, no recommendations. Fiscal effects, the funding for the purchase has been budgeted for in the following accounts. $38,204.92 from the equipment millage.
Further information, Nate?
Sure, the only thing I will add, Mr. Mayor, is that will bring us to a total of 4 vehicles. We do have more officers. The oldest vehicle will be moved over to the school resource officer, and this one will be folded back into our regular patrol fleet.
Okay. You get a motion on the floor for the patrol vehicle.
I'll make a motion to authorize the purchase of the 2024 Chevrolet Silverado in the amount of $49,548 on a 3-year lease and a $20,101.47 for the required accessories.
I'll support that.
Seconds. Anything further to add, Amanda?
No, it's just how to do it.
John?
Yeah.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if the vehicle is 50 grand, basically, and the light package is 20 more, why is it that we can't afford to buy this car, truck, whatever, outright? Why would we make payments, pay interest? In a multi-million, we spend millions of dollars here every year. We ain't got 70 grand?
I could answer that, but I'm gonna allow you to answer it. I'm
Sure.
gonna allow you to answer that one.
Sure, so typically with the police vehicles, we do pay out of our equipment millage. We only receive so much money from the equipment millage. And currently, we have several leases out on the equipment millage, so those funds are allocated to pay those leases. We're obligated to pay those, leaving a smaller balance. And we typically buy these vehicles in this fashion in order to be able to spread the amount of money we bring in per year to pay for several vehicles and pieces of equipment we need to operate the city. If we were to simply just purchase every piece of equipment outright, it would put us in a position where other pieces of equipment would be breaking down or leaving us without equipment that we need to operate the community. Before the equipment millage was put in place, which was prior to where I got here, and then we reauthorized it when I came in, we will only purchase very few pieces of equipment. And since the equipment millage has been in place, coupled with other resources and grants that we receive, we've been able to change out pieces of equipment that are super old and also bring in pieces of equipment that we need that we haven't had. So this is basically just to make the city operate. We lease these vehicles, the amount of money that we're paying in interest is minuscule compared to not having a piece of equipment that would be critical for city services.
How many police cars are we currently making payments on?
One, Mr. Mayor.
One including one, and then this one, so we'll have 2.
Mr. Mayor, if we purchase this one, it would be 2, correct?
That's all we need to. And then, of course, we will own it, we see that it's a lease, but we will own this vehicle at the end of 7 years, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none? We want to do a roll call.
It's a
vote. Spending money. Let's do a roll call vote on this one, please.
Councilmember Ganavante?
Yes.
Councilmember Becker?
Yes.
Councilmember Howard?
Nay.
Councilmember Flowey?
Yes.
Councilmember Kangas?
Yes.
Councilmember Dietz.
Yes.
Mayor Ilmenit.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Alright. Moving on, number 9, consent agenda. 9.1, minutes, February 13, 2025, regular minutes. 9.2, claims and accounts. 9.3, revenue expenditure trial balance reports. 9.4, mutual aid agreement. 9.5, Iron Ore Heritage Trail Association.
Authority.
Authority, yes, yeah, I knew I was wrong. Agreement. 9.6, board and commissions appointments.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Dave seconds that. All in? Dave did, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 10, public comment. Again, 3 minutes, please state your name.
Hi again, Carrie Palmer, 566 Bluff Street. I just want to address that, yes, fluoride is an additive. It's used as an additive as for a medical treatment. So it is like a drug, it is a very good comparison to that. The HHS recommended for over 50 years. I believe it was 1.5 parts per million. And in about 2015, they recommended 0.7. So this is a significant reduction, basically realizing that that recommendation or optimum level was dangerous. No one is not saying to use fluoride. People can use fluoride if they want a choice. Like I mentioned, there's topical fluoride. Someone mentioned fluoride salts. Those European countries who do not fluoridate do offer oftentimes these fluoride salts, but that's a choice. That's giving people a choice if they want to. That's all we want is a choice. Utah recently banned water fluoridation, and they're offering free fluoride tablets for their citizens if they choose. That's just an example. If people want to ingest that, even though the data, the overwhelming data is showing that ingesting is not a very wise decision, but if people want to make that choice, they can make that choice. Anecdotally, I grew up on fluoridated tap water. My brother and I had a lot of cavities. My oldest brother didn't have nearly as many cavities. I don't know why. We all had the same diet. Maybe it's genetics. Maybe he brushed his teeth and flossed better than we did. But it is not the panacea, water fluoridation. Many other ways to address the prevention of cavities. For example, just an example, children who drink fluoridated tap water, who may be, let's say, on a junk food diet and have poor oral hygiene, will be likely at higher risk of cavities than, let's say, children who are avoiding water fluoridation, practice good oral hygiene, and eat healthy foods. So there's so many ways that we can address this. Ireland fluoridates, one of the few European countries that do, and according to the WH data, which I believe was back in 2012, and I sent that to all the council members, they had just one of the highest rates of cavities. So we could go back and forth on the data, but what I'm saying is that we just want a choice. So people want to use fluoride. There's many ways to do it, and what I'm asking the council is if we can put this on the agenda. Councilmember Ganavati asked this city manager if she can put it on the agenda, and the city attorney recommended that she would make a motion because for some reason that was not something he was receptive to. It's not about controversy. We just want to discuss this. A lot of us have legitimate concerns about this, and we simply want to have a discussion. I know 2 medical doctors in this area that said they would speak about their concerns of water fluoridation. And I have a dentist who is very well spoken and I believe used to be pro-fluoride, but he has since changed and he's very educated. He said he would be able to be happy to do a Zoom call or talk audio like you've done here before, giving a presentation on this, just so we can be educated and consider ending this and then addressing how people can handle their oral hygiene, because we all can agree we want people to have better oral hygiene and would like to reduce tooth decay. So let's try to address this in a way where we have choice. Thank you.
Wilmot, 307 West Clark Street. So the reason why I did bring up what I brought up with the Code of Ethics is because with the training of all of you to hold the city manager accountable is because I brought something to everyone in December, and that was about the cemetery trees and how I saw that there was a bid that was not fulfilled completely, and it basically wasted the taxpayers almost $10,000. And only 2 council members have actually talked about this with me. I approached the mayor and I have not gotten any information back. In fact, the last meeting, there was praise given to the city manager for doing his job at Heike Junta. And I'm not trying to be mean by saying that. I'm just speaking my truth, that we need to, yes, give him praise when he does a good job, but we also need to hold him accountable when he did waste I wish it was $10, almost $10,000. And so I just want to say again that I brought all this information to you. I passed out all the email correspondence between him and I have not heard anything back from most of the council. And I don't know how this isn't being addressed and how we aren't holding the city manager accountable. And again, this is why I stress, maybe there needs to be training on how to hold the city manager accountable by the council. So I would just like to please ask you all to review the document that I gave you in December, and please address this. This needs to be addressed, so.
Hi, my name's Mark Fuller. I'm a master social work candidate this year at NMU. And we were asked by our policy instructor to take in the city council meeting. I was wondering if I could speak, even though I'm not a member of the Nagani.
Yeah, sure, what's your address, Mark?
Thank you. I'm over in the town of Marquette Township at 2012 West Fair Avenue, Marquette. The question that I had was on the critical minerals issue. I understand with the buckets, and we were talking about what ifs, you know, if they found something and they moved through. My question is, if they move to mine these critical minerals or find them and move to mine in that area, and you can say yes or no, but what if you're on a property where you don't own the mineral rights? So that's where you live, but you have no control over the mineral rights. So then would you still have an ability to say yes or no if you don't have the rights to that mineral? I'm not sure if that could be answered. That's my question.
Thank you, Mark. See no further public comment?
Nope.
Public comment? Oh, one more, I'm sorry.
Dave Campana, 1711 Grandview Drive in Marquette. I just want to add, I just think that fluoride in the water is such a good thing. At 0.7 parts per million, there's no problem. It's effective, there's no problem. There's no argument at what it does. It reduces cavities, the chance of cavities in kids and adults. There's no argument to that. And this is especially beneficial for lower income people, because they don't have the advantages that those with more money have. So by putting it in water, it benefits these people, it benefits everybody. If you're gonna make a decision on this, I just wish, please read studies from reputable, scientific, non-biased organizations. Get the facts, get the true facts. Don't go with somebody's opinion. Brushing alone or using fluoride treatments is not enough. You can brush your teeth 10, 20 times a day, it's not enough. You gotta take it systemically. It's gotta come in the back door, it's gotta go through your system into the teeth if you're gonna get the full effect. You cannot just brush it away. It helps, but the best result is when you have it in the water. Yes, it is an additive, but you know what, there's a lot of additives. You got iodine in salt, you got folic acid in milk, you got vitamin D in milk. You have no choice over that. It's an additive, we're giving it to you They're giving it to you because it's for the good of the group. You know, fluoride is just a good thing. It's not illegal, it's not a medicine, please don't call it that. Again, it's effective, it's safe, it's 0.7 parts per million. I'm not the expert. If you wanna speak to an expert, this is what I tell you. Next time you see your dentist, ask him. Next time you get your teeth cleaned, ask your dental hygienist. And if you still want more answers, contact your county health department. You will get the true unbiased facts about how good and effective and safe that fluoride is. So thank you very much.
Jeff Plummer, 566 Bluff Street. I appreciate both sides presenting. Cochrane Collaboration, a very well-known outlet, very trustworthy, did a meta-analysis on water fluoridation, all the major studies, and their finding was, this is a very reputable outfit, that water fluoridation shows no impact on dental cavities. And JAMA, Journal of American Medicine, they're mainstream outlets. Journal of American Pediatrics, I believe it is, a few years ago, showed IQ loss. This isn't a foreign entity. They show IQ loss, and especially in young children. Young children uptake this mineral, which is an industrial toxin. It's not like the natural fluoride we find in the ground. Yes, there's fluoride everywhere, but it's natural fluoride. And there might be some evidence that natural fluoride occurrences, I've heard, and I don't have the evidence, but Green Bay has naturally a little bit higher fluoride, but it acts in the body very different from the chemical fluoride that is scraped from aluminum phosphate fertilizer plants, which would be a toxic waste to get rid of it. So there's the question is, where's the bias? The bias is who's making money off of this? The fluoride is being sold to municipalities, which saves massive amounts of money. The companies would have to put this in toxic waste dumps. We really should think, is putting a product that belongs in a toxic waste dump something that's smart to put in our water? Or at least to say, is it something that's smart to make everyone drink? We do have a choice with milk and other things. We have the right not to buy it. We're forced in Negaunee to pay for our water. We have no choice. Even if you don't want your water on, you're gonna pay for 1,000 gallons a month. And we're forced to have fluoride in our water, which is a medical intervention. Maybe we can debate it's not a medicine per se. It's an element put in as a medical intervention. That's why he's referring to going to the health department. If it's not a medical intervention, why would you need to check in with the health department? It's just simple logic. People should have the right to choose. And there are fluoride tablets. If somebody really wants to ingest fluoride, there's ample opportunity to do that. Not ingesting fluoride is much more difficult. People go to great expense to remove it. That's why you see water filter stations popping up all over the place. The Co-op, Super One, people want this element taken out of their water. I know hundreds of people that don't want to ingest fluoride. And my dentist, actually, she believes fluoride shouldn't be in the water. Topical application of fluoride is the only thing that works, and ingesting it is not smart. And that's a dentist's opinion. So, thank you again.
I just want to comment on a couple things. It was actually
Your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Valerie Olson, 116 Hillcrest Trail. One of my dear friends, it was her husband, who was a dentist, who went to Iron Mountain at the time, over 35 years ago, when they were considering adding fluoride to the water. And he knew that it had never been approved for ingestion by the FDA, which has only approved topical use. And if some of you have ever seen fluoridated toothpaste, they'll put a warning on many of the tubes that say, if you swallow a pea size, please call the Poison Control Center. If you or your child, and the amount in a pea size of fluoride is the same that's in a glass of city water that's fluoridated at 0.7 parts per million. I just want to encourage you again, please read the review of the trial that took 7 years by the highest agency in the country, the National Toxicology Program, which reviewed scientific articles, studies, legitimate studies, critiqued them from all over the world. It wasn't just in America. And they found over 50 studies showing undeniable link with fluoridation and neurotoxicity in children. And that's because the infant brain inside, the fetal brain inside the mother is absorbing the fluoride. It goes to the brain and to the bones. No one is recognizing that it's cumulative. And also I read a study that a baby that is being fed formula from fluoridated water is taking in 200 times the amount of fluoride than a breastfed baby, because the mother's body can clear much of the fluoride. So the question is, do we have the right to put a chemical, and yes, it has been classified absolutely by the FDA as a drug. That you can look and see that that's right, and that's because it's being used for a health reason. So no, it's not a nutrient, it's not necessary for any bodily functions, and absolutely multiple medical doctors have written about the fact that it is interfering with the endocrine system, with the thyroid function. That's a big deal. Do we have the right to put something in the water that is disturbing normal physiology? Multiple medical doctors that are very knowledgeable have written about this. And you can't expect that those with conflicts of interest, which now we know the dental agency has, the American Dental Association.
30 seconds remaining.
Okay, when the American Dental Association attempts to hide the truth from the public because they don't want to lack their credibility, they don't want their credibility challenged, then we've got a real problem. That means they're caring more over their credibility than the results of a national ruling, a federal ruling that we have never had of such a high quality. So please review the ruling. You can go to that website, you will hear testimony from all of them, and even dental doctors like Dr. John Colquhoun, who was said to find all the evidence from New Zealand.
All right, time's up.
He found that there was no difference. In fact, cities that didn't fluoridate had many lower cavity rates, so.
Bob Mann, 774 Greenfield Road. I'd just like to thank the council for accepting our access agreement and let you know that we will inform when we intend to be on the properties and exactly what properties they are and when we're done. And my point of contact has been Mr. Nelson. So if that's fine, that's who I'll inform. And we hope to get this program going this summer, but it may extend into 2026, and we don't know exactly when we'll be on city property. Thank you.
Any further public comment? All right, closing public comment. Moving on to council comment. Any council member care to share a comment tonight? Dave? No? Yeah?
Well, for everyone showing up here tonight, thanks for showing up. It's an interesting topic. I have my views on it, but I'll kind of keep it under my hat. So just thank you for everyone for showing. We have a pro fluoride, we have a con fluoride. So it's nice to see we had a little bit of a differing of views. So not everyone was jumped in the same bus. So that was nice to see. Other than that, enjoy the nice temperatures we're having. And if you wanna see someone do something really stupid Saturday, maybe two people do something stupid, come out to the Up North Lodge over in Gwin. We have the polar plunge out there for Special Olympics. I'm jumping in the cold water, and our city manager might be doing that also, so I kind of twisted his arm, so. It's for a good cause, so you got nothing going on Saturday, take a ride out. Thanks.
Tracy?
No comment.
Amanda?
I have a comment. So, fluoride. I think it's pretty obvious what camp I'm in. I quit drinking fluoridated water about 15 years ago. Yeah, about 15 years ago, when I was in nursing school, and found out that the way to kill a thyroid, when people have hyperthyroidism, was to do a fluoride bath. And I was like, that's interesting. I thought fluoride was to help your teeth. And I have hypothyroidism, I'll be honest about that. So that's when I stopped. And interestingly enough, I have perfect teeth. I've never had a cavity, and I grew up poor. I had a diet of macaroni and cheese and peanut butter and jelly and Kool-Aid. So that did not affect, and I grew up on fluoridated water. But, you know, all those things put together make for a conundrum, but there you have it. I'm 41 years old and I've never had a cavity, and haven't had fluoridated water for 15 years. The biggest issue in my opinion, is consent. I do not consent to having fluoride in my water, and I pay a great deal of money to not have to drink it or cook with it. And that's been a pain that I've been, you know, dealing with for many, many years, and I know I'm not alone in that. So, you know, when this issue was presented to me, I, of course, was absolutely on board. You know, as far as poor people not being able to afford toothpaste and fluoride tablets are free through the health department. I know for a fact that it is given out to children who have well water in school. So it's not a matter of, you know, you can't afford toothpaste is cheap or free. And it's, you know, if there's any benefit to fluoride, it mostly from calcium fluoride, which is naturally occurring in the soil. Sodium fluoride is not the same as calcium fluoride. And, you know, if there is any benefit, it's topical, and that has been shown in many studies. You know, well water might have traces of calcium fluoride, but it's definitely not the stuff that's being scraped out of fertilizer plants and dumped into our water. So that's where I am on it. But the most important thing is consent, and if Negaunee, the city of Negaunee, the citizens want to have fluoride in the water, then that's what we'll do. If they don't, then they don't, and that's what is important here, not our opinion, but the citizens of Negaunee. Thank you. And Ishmael.
John, what you got for us tonight?
Nothing to add?
Nothing. Mr. Albert?
Well, obviously I ruffled some feathers the last month, and the DDA is a 3-letter agency, basically from what I can tell, mostly funded by the taxpayers. Not everybody's gonna love a 3-letter agency run by the city or any other governmental body. And though I mean no ill will against any of the people in the DDA, as a group, I'd rather they spend their own money rather than the taxpayer money. And anybody that finds me to be not politically correct, well, try not to find me, I guess. That's it.
Kevin? Nothing for you. That was a lot. That was a lot today. Thank you to the public for coming out. It's great to see a group of like-minded and opposing like-minded individuals and have civil discussion. And that's what our local government, that's what our government is for. So I appreciate it. I think there'll be further discussion between myself, city manager, the city attorney, and other council members, and we'll see where this goes. I can't make any promises to anything, but I think there's enough behind this to start talking about the fluoridation of water and see what can come of this, pending, you know, where it goes. And that's all I can really admit to right now, but I think we'll look deeper into this, and see what we can figure out and where we can go from here. With that being said, that's all I have for tonight. Mr. City Manager, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. The only thing I have is in your packet, and I'm sure you saw in the news that we were able to have a judgment on our side on the Kirkwood issue. Currently, right now, we were issued a judgment of $222,000 and some change in our favor for the tear down associated with, and other costs associated with the Kirkwood building that was torn down in 2019 for public safety reasons. So that's a good thing because number one, it shows those who own buildings that were serious about taking care of buildings in our community. And on top of that, we will hold you accountable if the city is the one that has to bear the cost. That is the taxpayers ultimately. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Sir. Mr. City Attorney? Nothing tonight. All right, can I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Dave? Amanda? Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.